Welcome back to the Hunt, Fish, Live podcast. I'm Dan, your host. In today's episode, we're doing a full recap of my deer hunting season for 2024. From the early season scouting to the close calls I had in the field, all the victories and lessons learned, I'm going to break down the highs and lows of my hunting season. Whether you've been out in the field with me or just are tuning in, get ready for a deep dive into the stories and insights that made this season one to remember. Let's get into it. The fun all started mid-August this past year, 2024. We headed down to Northwest Indiana to hang trail cameras, move some trail cameras, restart some trail cameras, hang a couple tree stands, and do some clearing of our current stand locations. Did a little bit of scouting too, just to see what was going on down there. We know that there's big deer. We know that there's big deer on the property, and we just wanted to lay eyes on some before we headed home. We typically go down like Friday, take like a half day off work on the Friday, and then head down for a few hours until dark, and get done what we need to get done. We usually split up and meet back at the main farm by the where the equipment is, and glass the field as we're finishing up and getting ready to head home. So, Corey and I went down this past year and did that together. Jeff and Steve met us down there. They all went back in September, but I was not able to. I also, right around Labor Day, I think, I headed out to my state land spot around home and reactivated my trail cameras and did some scouting, hoping to catch the deer that I caught, like the amount of deer and the quality of deer that I caught on camera last year, this year. I kept them in the same trees, and I keep them up off the ground so people walking by can't see them and don't even know that they're there. It's always it's always funny because I always forget where they're at, kind of. I have them marked on my map, but it doesn't. I have them marked on my Onyx, but it doesn't like show you the exact tree. You know, Onyx is pretty accurate, but it's off by a few feet, and where these cameras are is it gets a little bit tricky, but I always find them, and yeah, it's always like a kind of surprise, like, oh, there they are. Yeah, but so it's fun with I use a stealth cell cams, and the way they work is when they're deactivated, they still take pictures. So when you reactivate them, they send everything that they've taken since they were turned off, so to speak. So it's always fun getting the Springs pictures all at once. It usually depletes our picture allotment for the month, but it's cool to see what happens when you're not expecting it. So yeah, it makes it interesting, that's for sure. Throughout the month of September, we were getting pictures of bucks and does on all of our cameras in Indiana and up here in Michigan. That gave me a ton of anticipation and excitement for what was to come when October got here. We were seeing bucks and does pretty much every day, everywhere, and there was a few that were very nice. I was hoping to get even just a glimpse of one of these deer that we had been seeing on camera, but yeah, time would tell. As September went along, I got more and more anxious and ready for that first hunting trip in October. I did not get out opening day, October 1st. It was in the middle of the week, I think a Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday, because it was hot up here and I just didn't feel like sweating, and if I would shot something, I would have had to take care of it instantly and had to miss work when I was already missing work for most of the day that coming Friday on October 4. That day, I remember I took a half day, or maybe I took the whole day off, but I drove down to Grand Rapids, got Jeff, and we headed to Indiana for our first weekend in the woods. It was warm, I remember. I did see deer. We got down in time to hunt Friday evening, and I had a couple does and a nice tall 4-point. I think he was a year and a half old. I mean, he must have been a year and a half old, but he's gonna be a stud not a stud this coming year, but he's gonna be really nice, 2.5-year-old. I wouldn't have shot him, but it was cool seeing a buck on my first sit. I think I saw turkeys that day too, and that started to fuel my addiction with possibly taking a turkey down there this spring. So I think I'm going to try to do it. I think Corey and I are going down, and Jeff he's going to unbutton the camper and get it ready to take home, and we're going to do some turkey hunting. So I'm excited about that for sure. The month of October, I saw a bunch of deer, hunted a few different stands, hunted my stand, Jeff's stand, Brandon's stand. Brandon's stand hunt was pretty fun. I actually took a selfie with a little 4-point. He was behind me probably 15, 20 yards, and I couldn't help but snap a picture. He had no clue I was there. The wind was blowing from my back out in front of me, so there was no chance that he was going to win me either. But it was pretty funny. Let's see. I had a close encounter in Jeff's stand. Corey was hunting across the field from me in the ground blind, and I was in Jeff's stand along the bean field, and right about dark, 5 minutes after shooting time, this huge buck, like a giant, was chasing a doe through our field. Closest she got was probably 35 yards, and he stayed out to about 60, so still would have been a far shot with a bow, but if I would have had shooting light and camera light, I would have been able to get him to come. I would have tried to get him to come closer, so I could have an opportunity. He was giant. He was really big. Corey said he was huge. He came into snort, wheeze, and some rattling, actually, and this was like mid-October, late October, somewhere around the 20th, I think. That next morning, I remember Corey and I hunted the north side. I hunted the field edge, and he was back in his stand. I had a really nice buck, a shooter buck, come in just before shooting time, and I didn't have any light for my bow sight, and I just wasn't able to get a shot at him. He stood broadside at 32 or 35 yards, so it would have been an easy shot, but I just physically couldn't do it. But it was cool to see two mature bucks that I would have taken, shooters, so to speak, basically in 24 hours. So that set the precedent for the rest of the year, and it got me more excited than anything else. So it was a good October. I saw a lot of deer, got to hunt a lot. I think I had 11 hunts in October, so that was very awesome. Very excited to be able to get out and do that much hunting. I did not hunt in Michigan at all in October. It was all down in Indiana. Thank you to my wife for letting me do that. I enjoy that more than anybody will ever know. So, yeah, October came and went, and it was time for the best time of the hunting season. Sweet November, baby. That being said, November is usually the most exciting time to be in the deer woods. And it is for me too. I love hunting November. Early November is some of the best time to be out in the woods, and I never miss it, or try not to miss it. I usually take a rutcation with all the guys, Brandon, Tyler, Josh, Jeff, Corey, Steve, and we head down I go down for probably, it usually ends up being the 5 days, 4.5 days, down to Northwest Indiana. They all go for most of the week. It just works out better for me that way with family stuff. But So headed down this year, and something came up, and we had a family emergency, and I had to cut the trip very short. I got one hunt out of the deal, and had to come home. But that's all right. Family comes first, and it was a time that I had to be home. So I only hunted 6 times in November, so that was kind of a bummer. But with Thanksgiving and everything like that, that happens. So I had kind of a crappy a crappy situation go on. November 15th, Friday of the day before gun season in Indiana, I was down, got out of work early, and in my way south. I got down there before anyone else did, and I headed to our 200 farm and set up in a tree stand that's along the cut cornfield. I think it was corn this year. Yeah, it was corn. Saw some deer, saw some bucks. I had a really nice buck come in, and he was hidden out of bow sight from some dangly twigs from the tree that I was in. So he came in within 15 yards and spooked off a little bit, and hung out 30, 40 from me, just staring at me along the edge of the field, and went into the woods to never be seen again. So I feel like I kind of messed up on that, and I'm really kicking myself for, I don't know. I wouldn't have been able to get a shot because my arrow would have hit these tree branches, or the odds of my arrow hitting these tree branches was pretty high. So I went on the safe side, and I didn't draw back or anything. Super bummed. He would have been definitely my biggest buck that I've ever killed. Yeah, kind of a bummer. Still kind of sad. But aside from that, I saw 3 very nice shooters in the first half of hunting season. So I can't really complain too much. Other than that. But it was, I just think of that. I run through that scenario in my head often, and I get a little depressed, and it gives me the drive to do better for next year, to try harder next year, try harder than I've ever tried to kill a buck. I know that my friends and hunting buddies and everyone wants me to kill something nice, so kill something at all. So we're gonna give it a try again, naturally, but yeah, I'm hoping to be a different person, different mindset, and more ready than I ever have been to hit the woods come next October. December was kind of weird too for me in the deer woods. Let me explain. I only got out a handful of times in December. I had 2 or 3 hunts. Not 3. Hold on. Looking at my digest here. Yeah, I have a logbook that I keep all my hunts in. Just a quick description of what happened, what I saw, who I was with, where I was at, time of day, and everything like that. So it's been fun going back and reading those stories and little blips of information. So according to my book here, I had 6 hunts. Sorry, according to my book, I had 6 hunts between December and January. The first weekend in December, it was the opening weekend of muzzleloader season down in Indiana. So I headed down. Corey and I were going together, and Jeff called us along the way and was like, "Hey, pick me up. I want to hang out." So we picked him up on the way, and I ended up with a muzzleloader tag, which was awesome. So I got to use a gun. That first morning, I saw We didn't get down for an evening hunt on Friday, but that's all right. That first morning, I saw 5 does. I sat in the north side. Um, nothing to kill, but I was ready. They came running by. They didn't really stop at all, so I had 0 chance at a shot. That night, I went with Corey and sat in the ground blind in the corner by the wetlands down there, and we had a giant out in the field. He was rattling and snort wheezing at him. He was chasing a doe. There was a ton of deer. We saw a deer that we called Dan. Little backstory on Dan. We were getting trail camera pictures of him in September, and he had a really unique rack. It turns out that he had an injured leg, or has an injured leg, and isn't really able to get around that great, and looks kind of goofy, and that's why they named him Dan. Because I'm goofy, and he looked goofy. So they all wanted me to kill him, making a cool story out of it, and it would have been a great story. But anyway, so this huge buck was chasing this doe around this field, and he never really got close. Closest they got was like 250, I think, 250 yards from us, and that shot wasn't going to happen. So we hung in there, and he ended up chasing her off the opposite way that we were and going the other direction. So had an opportunity. I was shaking. It was a lot of fun, and I'm really, really happy that I got to spend that time and have that experience with Core. Yeah. It was a great night, a great weekend to hunt. Went out the next day, Sunday morning, and did not see anything, which kind of happens sometimes down there. January, first weekend of January, we went down for the last weekend of bow hunting, and it was cold, 12 degrees and windy, bringing the wind chill really low, below 0, I think, or close to it. That first morning, I sat in the in our backfield stand, hoping to kill something in the cut corn, because we had been seeing deer in cornfields the whole way down Friday night. I grabbed Jeff on the way down. Josh and Brandon were already down there, so it was fixing to be a great time. Had a group of does come in behind me, about 20 yards, and they bedded down in the trees behind me, which was fine. One got up, started making her way towards the field. She had to cross a ditch. I drew back on her, but wasn't able to get a shot. She never crossed the ditch, and there's a limb that comes out on the right side of this tree, and I just couldn't get my bow around it to get a shot at her, unfortunately. But it was an exciting hunt. I got extremely cold. We were all freezing after that. That night, so January, 7 in the evening, I hunted the north side, hoping to see some does, and that I did. I saw about 40 deer that night, and Brandon saw over 50, I think. Closest one was 131 yards, and I did see a buck too without antlers, which I thought was pretty early, but he said he saw one without and one with a half rack too. So it was that time of year for that to start happening. Here in Michigan, in Kent County where I live, they have a extended late archery season. I don't know where Third Eagle is, if they want to kill all the does or what in the area or in the county, or kill all the deer in the county. I was kind of hesitant to get out and hunt that late season, just because you gotta try extra hard not to shoot a buck that doesn't have any antlers, and I definitely didn't want to do that. So I kind of wrote it off for the rest of the year, and decided to call it a season. I had a great season. Saw a lot of deer. Got to hang out with my buddies and do a lot of hunting together. I love those guys, and they will never know how much I appreciate the time I get to spend with them and do what we all love together. It's my favorite thing. So here is to the end of deer season. Well, that's the recap for you, and that's the end of this episode. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to the Hunt, Fish, Live podcast. Throw me a comment. Let me know about your deer season and your hunting experiences this fall. And don't forget to subscribe. I've got a lot of, hopefully, ice fishing trips coming up, and then turkey season come May. Until next time, everyone, thank you for listening. Have a great day. Good luck.